Sorry, had to deal with my daughter. Just as I was saying, we go to Ubuntu Cloud Image and you select an image and download it. You don't have to use the exact same image I use, but whichever image you use, remember to update the image name here to match it. Okay, after which you set up a hard disk for the image, make it into a Cloud-init you set up so that it boots directly only from there. Give it a serial port so that you can view it in the console. And this agent. This doesn't work. This is supposed to enable the qemu-guest-agent. But for some reason, even when I enable it here, if I boot up the VM before I turn it into a template and I check it, it doesn't have it enabled. So you can do this or not, but what I recommend is that you go directly into put up the VM, go into it, and you change it yourself, and then this you configure so that it uses DHCP. So for now, we will use DHCP, and then after we run Terraform apply and we have the IP address for each of them, I'm going to use Ansible now to connect to my modem and how to say set what do you call it, resolve the IP addresses that was set for these three VMs in my modem, so they're not going to. So when the DHCP lease is expired, they're not going to change. Okay, and then you also can add an SSH key. Okay, so after you've done all that, you should be left with just a VM like this, and then it should have yes, a VM like this, and then you should have cloud in it, and you make the changes. So you add a user, you add a password, this you add your SSH key, you update package to yes. This will already be set because you did it in code. Then you will boot up this VM, boot it up, and after you boot it up you run these. So this will just update it, remove and clean any unnecessary packages. There won't be any because it's a brand new, but just in case you delete the SSH host key, because you don't want those host keys to be when a VM clones, it clones everything on the inside, so you do not want the host keys to be the same, because then you'll have two VMs that is via SSH will be looked as the same device. Okay, then the machine ID also needs to be removed. Okay, and then this Etsy machine ID and varlib dbus machine ID are symlinked to each other. So down in the bottom here, you just make sure that the symlink is there. This is just to take out any temporary files and logs. You're not going to have any, but it's just in there just to be safe. And this is the important part. Ensure that you install the qemu-guest-agent. This is what you need for to be able to grab the IP address with Terraform. Okay, and then make sure and it's enabled and it's started, and then you shut down. Sweet. So after you do all that, then you can jump into your Terraform. So the main Terraform, first we look at the providers which I showed you. We just have the Telmate for Proxmox and the Cloudflare, and then the required fields. Then the main, we look at the main. So first we have this one is for the control plane. So we need a name, we need a target node. The target node will be here, this PVE node. So if I show you my variables, this target node, just go down to control plane. Where is my target node here is just PVE, you know. But for the sake of making it look clean. I added some of them as variable. Give it a VM ID. Okay, this is just a description. So Cloud-init, this is the name of the template. So here, after you finish with everything, you right click, convert to template. So this is it here. I had two because I tried it with Terraform and then we had some issues with the Cloud-init and I had to do it over. So that your template is make sure that your VM is clean before you convert it to a template because that's where you get most of your problems. Okay. And then OS type, it's on the fridge, baby. Freezer. Um, the OS type, so all of the freezer, the standing one. So all of this came from the documentation. So if you go into the documentation, Proxmox VM qemu, yeah, you can get everything. So this is the standard. The resource name we called it K8s control plane, and then give it a name, and then we put the target node. The disk is coming up later. So this was hell to put together. I'll say myself because there's so much that you can do. You can do for Pixie boot for Cloud-init. So one thing I would mention for Cloud-init is that you must configure one of these. Okay. Okay. So I had to go through each one and just kind of try. So I followed this process, the create VM process, and the same items that you needed to put in if you uncheck advanced, the same items that you need to put in as you're going through this process. This is what I looked for first because I assume that's what will be needed. And then I just kind of walk my way backwards and trial and error until I get it right. A lot of it is documented, so you can read and figure it out. Okay, and a lot of them are how to say depreciated, so not all of them can work at the moment. So for me, what was needed was the clone, the name of the template, and we wanted a full clone. The OS type is Cloud-init because it's a Cloud-init template. Again, this is redundant because we did that within the template, but sometimes I had an error with it, so I had to set the name again redundant, the password again redundant. All of this has already been set, and it worked fine. In some cases, it doesn't work fine. In some cases, I believe the provider itself has an error. I actually did get a bunch of errors while doing Terraform apply. Okay, and most of the errors I just had to delete the Terraform folder and then redo them, re-init, Terraform init, Terraform plan, Terraform apply again, and then it worked fine. So just these here are just safety precautions, just in case the provider gives an error. We add the memory, we add the agent again. This agent just means install a qemu guest agent, and all of these here are pretty standard in Terraform. Then this here is where I had most of the problem. The disk, we need one disk for the. I had the problem with the sizing of this disk. That the sizing needed to match the image sizing on on Terraform. So if you go in here, my image sizing here, the sizing here needed to match these image sizing. So that was an issue. But we got through it. And then we put the CPU, the cores, the socket, and the network is more or less the same. And then the serial, this is for connecting it on the console. And then the worker nodes are just the same. The only difference is I just run a loop. so that I can increase the amount of worker nodes later on. I actually need to do the same for the control plane, but for now I'll just have one control plane and two workers, and when I cluster up my Proxmox, I have three clusters on the way, then I can add some more. Sweet, okay. So after that, well, of course, the variables to back everything up, and then this vars here just holds my secrets, and then we have the output. So the output here is basically going into the control plane and its default IPv4 address. And this again, I had to search the documentation for. If you go right down to the bottom on the attributes here, this falls under attributes. So these are the attributes you can reference after you created it. Okay, you can get the SSH host, you can get the port, and you can get the default IPv4. And this, if you do this again, will only return to you if the qemu-guest-agent is installed. So this gives you the control plane one, this gives you the workers, and this just gives you all of them, and then we grab the host name. So what I'll do right now is go into my sorry, I'm inside blog already. Terraform Proxmox, and then I can just go at Terraform destroy. I'll put this to the side so you can have a look. So if I run here Terraform destroy, it will go in now and destroy these three. So it's a bit slow, but I'm not going to cut or pause the video or do anything like that. I'll just let it happen as it does, but it's very slow on my side. So here, all of three of them has been destroyed. Just close this out so you can see the terminal a bit better. It's just a git error. So now we can do Terraform run to see. As you can see, Terraform plan works well. I've already did Terraform init, and then we can do Terraform apply auto approve, and then we'll watch all three of them build. The last time I did it, once it took up to 8 minutes for all three of these VMs to come up, and for the IP address to show, which was a very long time. So hopefully it takes faster this time. So while this is working, show you the I'll just jump into the README to show you errors I had, and I had lots of them. Okay, so as you can see, master node is already up. This log sign says it's still being created. If you look at the logs down here, you can see. Okay, so VM 5000 is being cloned. This is the destroyed stuff, destroy that I just did. So it's being cloned. So everything is coming up. So in the meanwhile, we can just get through errors. Okay, so first error, even with the API token, Terraform was unable to connect to to control Proxmox. So this is something that I had to figure out. Just checking online after I assumed after I created API token, and I selected my user here. And I selected my user and give the token a name. I assume that the token will have permissions just as my user, but I was wrong. I needed to go add permissions directly to that API token. Okay, so then we had provider mismatch. So when I was looking for Terraform provider again, human error, I just type Proxmox and no, I Google Proxmox providers and I got to a page. I got to a page and I just started using it and I didn't pay attention directly to which provider I was using, whether it was Telmate or BPG. And because of that, I just keep Googling this, Googling that. I mixed up the both providers. So pay attention to that. Use one provider. And well, how did I notice this error? It's my problem number 3. In Telmate, okay, let's go back here, see how is it going. See, master is up, worker is running, it's still running down here. It's been 2 minutes and 40 seconds already. It's taking forever. Okay, so Telmate, Proxmox, if you go under the documentation for provider, they they have here Proxmox API token ID, Proxmox API token secret. They need both of them as separate entities to be able to work. But if you go to BPG, if I remember correctly, it uses just a single entry for the API token. Yes, it uses just a single entry for the API token. So you needed to put here the API token. You needed to put the user and the secret on one line. And because of this difference, it's when I finally figured out, oh, I'm using the wrong provider. Anyway, it's a great learning experience. Sweet. Let's go back into it. So then the incorrect Proxmox API URL. So I used the bad URL as I mentioned to you from the Proxmox here. If you from Telnet, if you go under the URL must end with API 2 slash JSON. It must end with this. This is the official URL to be used. If you don't use that, it will be wrong. And then I had an issue here with OS type. Let me find it's under this one. I had an issue here with OS type. So the OS type I used was Cloud-init. But first I was using Ubuntu and it worked sometimes and then I found online in some forum that they use L26, but I thought it was 126 and then I was racking my brain googling up and down trying to figure what the hell is this, and it's just the stand for L is for Linux and 26 is the kernel. Okay. So best is to follow the standard in the documentation. You can Google and read for some help here or there, but stick to the documentation because people online just put things online that works for them. Yeah, so the SSH key. Oh, it's finished. Let's have a look here. So here, so we got These are the names, the host names. These are the IP, and then we separate it into control plane and worker. And the reason why it's separated like this is that I'm going to take it, these three lists, and and using a Python script, put them into an Ansible inventory file, and from that, then I can bootstrap Kubernetes on each of them based on the host name. So if it's the host name is master, then it will get the control plane, the requirements based on the control plane, and then we can, when this is finished, then obviously we get the code to add the token to add them as workers to the control plane. So that is it. I'll just quickly um, another mistake I made was adding the Terraform file. So I accidentally git add. Here's my git ignore now, but I didn't have this in there. And when I Terraform in it, I had to I added this file and then pushed it to GitHub. And while pushing it to GitHub, I got an error stating that, hey, one of the files in there, one of the files in telmade, blah, 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 the exe is too large here. It's too large to be pushed to GitHub. You have to use GitHub for large files. Yeah, and then that caused a lot of errors problems for me because even after I cleared the cache, because the file was pushed in a previous commit, it was still looking for the files in the later commit, so which caused problems. But so what I had to do was um, copy over everything into a new folder, delete the file, basically create a new Git repo and force push it back to my GitHub repo and clear everything. So I lost all my previous commits, but I did keep my working files. So wait, anything else? Runs? Yeah, and I think that's about this. That's about it for error. So the next step right now is to have my scripts, and then from my scripts, I'll get my Ansible. Okay, so that's what I'll be working on. So first I'll work on the script to grab the IP address. So obviously these IP addresses can be saved to a file and I'll chuck the file right into this script folder, after which I'll run a Python script. Hopefully everything should be automated in the sense that I just do one Terraform apply and it creates everything. Then it automatically runs the scripts and then the Ansible inventory is created and then Ansible is run and then Kubernetes bootstrapped and then hopefully everything is just one command and everything and it's done. I'll see how it goes. So it's so we can end it here. Thank you. I hope this was useful. I can add my I can add my GitHub so you guys can have a look. You can have a look at the Proxmox and see if it's any useful to you guys. Thanks.